Hey everybody, welcome back to the StarEast News Desk. My name is Jeff Payne. I'm the founder and CEO of Covaris, and I'm going to be the host for this segment. I have with me here today Chris Haggan from HCL, and he's going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the software testing market and how HCL fits into that market. Welcome, Chris, to the News Desk. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Looking forward to chatting a little bit, so let's start right at the top. What's going on in the testing industry? What have you seen in the last couple of years that's been transpiring? And then what do you see happening in the future?
Well, I think at the moment there's a bit of a split in the test market. We see kind of two directions that people are going in. And I think these have been happening for a long time. You see a lot of focus on formal specifications, things like contract testing and things like that, where you're in an API test space or something that's very programmatic, and you need that precision. Yeah. And then you see on the other end of the spectrum, I hear an awful lot of conversations around exploratory testing, and as teams are shifting right in thinking about testing in production and those sorts of things, how do we get more creative around testing in that sort of a world? And so I almost see it as a dichotomy between this level of precise technical, everything must obey the contract, and okay, we're going to go off and we're going to do some exploratory testing, and we're going to codify that, don't get me wrong, but it's a little bit more free form, it's a little bit more exploratory. And so I think that's a really interesting thing. I think as the market moves on in a couple of years' time, it's going to be interesting to see how those two things start to go more hand in hand, and you start to work them into conversations as a pairing.
Like those are two separate roles and separate people, or do you feel like it is going to converge into a single role? What's your thought? Because that's been an age-old discussion, right?
Absolutely, and I'm sure it's a conversation that we'll keep having for many more years to come. But I think more than ever, I see a lot more sort of split in that community, in just in terms of people wanting to be deep and technical and going in at the contract level and the APIs and that sort of thing, because there's a lot of speed there. There's a lot of technicality, particularly if you're doing agile development and things like that. You want to be able to react to change much more quickly, and oftentimes that change is happening at the API layer, at the database layer. So that's there's a real sort of impetus to focus there to an extent. But then, by the same token, I see an awful lot of feedback from the exploratory tests sort of world that says, well, look, it's great, you can be all precise and that sort of thing, but when the rubber meets the road and this stuff gets into production, your users are going to find something somewhere, and we need to be able to account for that. So do they merge into one? Interesting question. Probably at some point. I think it becomes down to a question of tooling and skill sets. And really, I think over the last few years, the conversation has really started to grow around the API test role. I would say 6 years ago, 6 years is quite a long time, I suppose, but 6 years ago, there weren't many people talking about API testing, really.
Right.
It's really something that's risen to the fore in the last few years, and that's something that now more people are getting into that discipline. I think it's going to be interesting to see how those skills and those people start to apply themselves to the more traditional sort of testing processes.